Godzilla vs. Kong is directed by Adam Wingard and stars Alexander Skarsgård, Rebecca Hall, Millie Bobby Brown, and among others. And this is now the fourth film in the MonsterVerse, as they call it, films that started with 2014's Godzilla. That was the American reboot of the Toho franchise. And this is also a sequel to Kong Skull Island, which was a new reboot of King Kong. And in this story, it deals with Godzilla, who is now essentially wreaking havoc, and after the events that took place of Godzilla King of the Monsters, and it's up to basically a team that represents the Monarch organization that was established in other films to bring in King Kong in order to stop Godzilla. And on top of a plot that's also dealing with Monarch that I'm not going to get into detail because it builds up more of the world that they set up with on the with the organization. So, but I'll leave it there because I'm not going to give any spoilers. Now, here's some backstory. Now, this is actually a franchise this is actually a movie I've been really pumped to actually get excited for a long time. And growing up, I was actually always a big Godzilla fan. And while I wasn't always watching many of the original Godzilla films from Toho back from the 50s and onward, I do remember when I was a kid enjoying the original black and white version of King Kong, or sorry, black and white version of Godzilla from the 1950s. And I remember when I was a kid, I remember watching the version that was from the 1956 called King of the Monsters, which was the Americanized version. But even in general, even though I haven't fully watched all the films, I do remember that one specifically when I was a kid and enjoyed it. And having watched it recently, I still I actually finally got a chance to watch the original Godzilla from 1954, which I thought was a good, disaster type movie. The way it dealt with Godzilla as basically, an unstoppable force and being like a scary sight to behold. And the character of Godzilla has always been one of my favorites as a kid growing up because it was not only a monster that was able to, breathe fire and just, come from atomic bombs and stuff, but he just always had something that was not only very frightening, but also very, like, badass, too, in a way. And even when I was a kid, too, I was also a King Kong fan because when I was a kid, I used to always watch, different parodies and stuff of the original film, and I actually didn't really watch Kong when I was a kid until I saw the 1976 version with Jeff Bridges, and I remember enjoying that one when I was a kid, and that's the one that got me really introduced to the character. And then as years went by, I finally watched the original Kong from the 30s, and even to this day, I look at that one as a fine achievement of effects that were ahead of their time and being able to craft a great monster film. And so as the years have went by and we've gotten different incarnations of Godzilla and King Kong, I've always been curious because I remember when about 10 years ago, I finally watched the original Godzilla vs. King Kong from the 60s, and I remember enjoying that one for what it is, despite its campy type of fun. It still had a fun regard of showing, the monsters duking it out with each other, and even though it got some silly points and stuff, it is still, I thought, was an enjoyable movie. And it always made me wonder what would happen if they ever remade the film years later. And when I heard news of this movie coming out, I just couldn't be more excited because they planned on this from the very beginning, going back to when the first Godzilla came out in 2014. And not just to recap those real quick, I enjoyed the first Godzilla from 2014, and looking back on it, it is still, I still enjoy it, but it's still it does have its more problems that I see more that I see a lot of people complaining about. That kind of hinders it back from being great, but I still thought it was a good, introduction to this universe. And then Kong Skull Island, I thought was a really good, type of fun movie that was able to balance the whole Vietnam War aspect and the fun B-movie vibe and give it what you want as far as when it comes to King Kong. And I really had a blast with a lot of the cast in that film too that I thought were great. And then I enjoyed Godzilla King of the Monsters that I thought was still good, but it was great to finally see all the other monsters come together, especially King Ghidorah, Mothra, and all them battling out with Godzilla and everything. And so I enjoyed, in my original review, I remember enjoying King of the Monsters, but I did still have its flaws as far as the story because it seemed like ever since Godzilla, these movies have always struggled as trying to balance out the human characters, except for Skull Island. So there's been movies and also to an extent to some of the other small places in Godzilla King of the Monsters and stuff. So with this one coming out, I wasn't really expecting much as far as the human elements. I always just wanted to see it just for the monsters. And I can honestly say the trailers got me really pumped for this, and it was like one of my most like rewatched trailers of the year for me, and it got me really pumped. And after finally seeing the film, I can honestly say that this was a really good time. I really enjoyed this film a lot. Now, it does have its flaws, like many of the other MonsterVerse movies in the previous movies, but for what it does of getting the job done of being entertaining, it still works in that regard. And to get my pros out of the way, the performances and the cast are good, but they're, as far as like characters and like the way that the human characters are written, it is very, you know, that's where my only big flaw is, except for a couple ones that stand out for me. But I thought the performances of the main cast, they were good, you know, given for what they had to deal with and everything. But the biggest standouts, this is what you wanted out of a King Kong versus Godzilla film, and both monsters shine in their own right. And believe it or not, when I was watching this movie as it's going along, this is actually what I consider more of a King Kong film, because it deals more with King Kong on his own, having pretty much spent a whole lot of time with him, and then you come back to like Godzilla here and there throughout the majority until like the very end, and when he actually has this brawl with during the fight where he has with Kong in the two showdowns. But for the most part, this is more focused on King Kong's story, where we get to learn more about like where he's like kind of where he's coming from, and like some of the other like stuff that centers around him that really is the heart of the film. And they do a pretty good job with me actually being able to sympathize with Kong, because believe it or not, he was actually had a lot of the soft side that I really enjoyed, that I really always liked about King Kong. And they don't hold any bars here with him in this one. And one of the things that really is a key to that is that they have this little girl in the film. I think her name is Gia, and she's basically this little deaf girl that, you know, has a very good human bond with Kong, and it's basically the closest that we get of doing a readaptation of the Ann Darrell character from the original '30s version. And I like that in this one we get to see that Kong has developed a good, you know, connection with the little girl, and the way that she's able to basically tame the beast, as it's always been said. And I really love their chemistry together when they're on screen, and it's very cute and heartwarming, and it really is the heart of the film. And that also plays a factor in too with her connection with Rebecca Hall's character, that I thought was a good standout as well, and I thought they had, you know, very genuine chemistry together that I liked. To get my other pros out of the way, again, going back to the monsters, it was great when it actually gets to the fight and we get to a lot of the action scenes, especially the big brawls that happen. They don't hold any bars, and it's cool in this time that we finally get to see Kong and Godzilla actually duking it out in the daytime. And when you see that scene where it's on the boat and everything, that I thought was a great fight scene, with being able to, you know, really go at the edge and like beating the shit out of each other and all that. And you get to see a lot more of like the military coming in action and trying to shoot down Godzilla and everything, trying to help Kong. And I thought it was just, you know, it was very well shot in those scenes. I like how the camera is basically like doing a lot of, you know, kind of like zoom ups when it comes to the fight scenes. Like when you're seeing like the camera like slowly zooming in on like Kong or Godzilla, when it comes to like, it's basically what you call the over-the-shoulder view. And I thought that really blended well, especially into a scene later where it's like, I'm not going to spoil anything, but let's just say that Kong grabs something, and you see the camera like slowly comb into his eye, or going into his face and everything. And I thought, if it was in 3D, I thought that would have been cool if I would have seen it like come at me or whatever. So that is something I really enjoyed a lot too, with the way the camera angles work in this. But that's nothing compared to when we get to the showdown later, when it actually gets to like the main brawl, the final brawl that goes down between Godzilla and Kong. And in that fight scene, man, they fucking don't hold back. They keep going, you know, they beat the shit out of each other. You actually get to see Kong using his, like, you know, skills to deflect Godzilla and stuff, like you see in the trailer. Like, this to me is like one of the best fight scenes I've seen in a long time. And they really Adam Wingard really stuck to his guns with being able to bring us what you expect out of this battle. The other biggest praises I have too with the movie is I like the score as well. I thought it was very, you know, intense at times and very emotional. And I got to really appreciate the neon lights. Like, there's a lot of neon colors that honestly reminds me of something out of Tron Legacy and all that. So I thought it really blended well, and it was a lot colorful. And the movie, while it does have the same like kind of mentality of like the other Godzilla and King Kong movies, they still really stick to doing like it's more. It seemed like the director was more self-aware on this time with being able to give you as more of a very fun blockbuster type movie, and that's what I think this movie holds the best with, is being that kind of level. And I got to really, I do also like the build. There's a, not going to spoil anything, but there's something that they also do that the human characters have to do in order to like that in order to help Kong with, that I think really was a great way of building the world up. And the way they play it out toward the end of it was a good payoff. And it makes you really want to see more of what they will do with this if they bring it out in future films. But I'm not going to spoil that because that's a big spoiler that I can't reveal. But I thought that was a great way of building more of the world in this movie and this whole franchise. If I have to get into my cons now, that's where pretty much I have with the human characters, like I said earlier, where it's nothing really to write home about because they're really just there to drive the plot along. So there's nothing really special that stands out except for the little girl and who bonds with Kong. And what I thought was a little disappointing was that in this one they bring Millie Bobby Brown back in this one who's basically trying to understand why Godzilla is doing everything, especially since the last movie. But my biggest disappointment with her character is that they really kind of underuse her a lot to where she's not really given much to do with necessarily. And it's kind of disappointing because, she was kind of the horror of the last movie, and I figured they would, have like something really build up with her in this one. But unfortunately, they really kind of sideline her a lot in this one, and I felt like, yeah, there were parts in the film where you could really kind of take her scenes out, and it really probably wouldn't have changed much. But I thought she still did a good job for what she was given with it. Now, the other thing I can say, too, is that the movie also does... The humor I'm kind of mixed with. Like, there are some funny lines I enjoy from Brian Tyree Henry from his character a couple times, but there were a lot of the jokes don't really land the way that it's delivered a lot of the time, and I felt like some of the humor is just kind of there, but then there's other parts where it's kind of like it makes me laugh here and there with. So the comedy's kind of hit and miss, but it's kind of what you expect from this kind of movie, the way it's played along with bringing you that more fun blockbuster type level. And another thing I did have a con with was that there is some stuff that they also don't really elaborate on as far as like building with the Monarch organization stuff that I thought could have been a little bit more developed had we gotten to see more. And there's a lot of stuff that you kind of predict the way it plays along and everything that doesn't always that you kind of already expect that's happening. But that's kind of a typical given this kind of movie. But with that being said, though, given for all the things that they do, I still think that the movie does a good job with giving you what you want as far as, seeing Godzilla and Kong duke it out, along with, building other stuff in the film that really keeps it along. So, as an entertaining film, it's definitely up there as, probably the most entertaining besides, probably since Skull Island and Godzilla Godzilla King of the Monsters. Story, I'd have to give more credit to Godzilla King of the Monsters on that regard, and also a little bit with the first one as far as that. But with that being said, though, I still overall really enjoyed it, and I do highly recommend it as well. And so with that being said, I am going to give the movie a very high compelling grade on the Film Freaks meter. So for those of you who have also seen Godzilla vs. Kong, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.